You'll see we had bottled water the whole time because the water wasn't safe to drink. And so after a couple of days, my stomach began to get upset eating the food because basically you have a lot of rice, and cows are holy. You'll see cows with like leis and all kind of stuff on them, so you can't eat beef. And then pigs are considered unholy. So what does that leave for you to eat? Chicken, right? Chicken. There's a whole lot of chicken. There's other things they eat too, but they really focus in on chicken. Chicken and fish, and then prawn, which is shrimp, will come in on a later slide. So, but the inside of here is typical for like a pastor's dwelling. You notice the little bed off here to the side, and just a few items here. Just like a one-room place on the side of a church is pretty much where the pastor and his family would be. And they wouldn't have furniture like this inside. They mainly just sit on the floor or on the bed. There's just not much there. Notice they did all have cell phones. He's got a pretty nice cell phone there. And I had one of the guys over there give me internet for my cell phone while I was over there. And I said, how much does your internet cost to get on his cell phone? And it was basically $7 a month in our money. And I'm like, why can't we get internet for $7 a month, right? That's what I'm thinking. I want internet for that price. So, you know, I'm in the middle of India. I'm in the middle of this church. Things are going great for the first day. I'm eating the rice that they have and a little bit of chicken and the seasonings. And they have this stuff called curd. And it's what they use to balance out their food over there from the spices. But I don't eat it because I don't know if it's been pasteurized or not. So I don't eat it. And I think that's part of my problem because I have issues later on that. So let's go to the next one. So church number 2 is on Sunday. And this is titled the Grass Hut Church. So they had a light bulb inside, I guess, for evening services. And I'm like, if that were to catch fire, there's no fire codes or anything like that. But so this is me. I'm sharing a message on Sunday. And this is Babu, and he's interpreting for me as I share the message. And an interpreter is key because actually it makes what we do legal in India, because legally I can't lead anybody to Jesus in India. I can't say the sinner's prayer with them. I can't offer them to change their religion. That's where things become illegal. But a national can. I'm a foreigner over there. So at the end of the message, Babu would lead them in like a sinner's prayer if they want to receive Jesus. And most of the time, everybody would want to receive Jesus or rededicate themselves at that point in time. But I'm the draw, big white guy. He's coming to see us. He's from America. Let's go check him out, right? So the whole village gets together and comes to see you. And I wish you guys could hear it, but they have these big speakers just blasting music in their language, Telugu. And I can't understand a word of it, but it's so loud. And like to me, it's just like deafening. But they do that. So the whole village knows that they're going to have church. And I guess it's just normal. So anyway, next slide. So this is more inside the church. You can see the folks here that are hanging out. Some people have Bibles. Most of the people in the front have Bibles. The ones towards the back typically don't. A lot of them come because they're just curious. Next one. This is at the same church. They're celebrating us again with these leis and things that they're giving us. Next one. Oh yeah, just a close-up shot of the ladies. Yeah. One more. So this is like as I'm getting ready to leave this church. And I've given this message now a couple of times since I've been there. 1 Samuel chapter 5. And it basically goes back to what? The first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me, is what it's going. I'm going back to that the whole time, and I don't even know that I'm doing this until like 2 or 3 messages in. I'm going back to Genesis chapter 1 or John 1, and I'm explaining basically from creation to Jesus to now about how to believe and what to believe in, because in this culture, Christianity is just another religion. Jesus is just another little idol that you can buy and you can put up with the rest of your idols because they're what's called polytheistic. So they believe in many gods. You can believe in 1,000 different gods, or you can believe in 1,000,000 different gods, or whatever. You can make up your own and and set them on different places. But when you tell Jesus is the one and only God, and he's the creator of heaven and earth, when you start there, they have a choice to make. Am I going to continue worshiping all these false gods that I have, or am I going to give my life to Jesus? And this pastor over here, he's holding this really colorful looking Bible. He has chosen to give his life to Jesus, and they've been meeting in this structure for it's either 15 or 18 years, I forget, as a church, coming together as a church. He's sharing the gospel every Sunday. This man has marked mental and physical disabilities. Like, you can tell that he's really struggling with things. And he's having to ask the Lord to help him just to preach the word every day because he can barely get through it. He's really struggling. But these people are really supportive, and they're behind him, and he's making disciples who are making disciples. And I couldn't even have a conversation with him. I didn't know the language very well, but I could tell there was something a little bit different about him. So as we went to different churches, we were making disciples. 10 disciples here, maybe 15 here, that wanted to follow Jesus. Now, some of the things they needed were Bibles and to be baptized, and also a pastor like this man, which I don't know if I even got his name, to help them go through their idols and throw away their idols. So there was like steps to this. They commit their lives to Jesus, they get baptized, they go through all their idols at home, and they get rid of them, and they read their Bibles. And if the India government finds out that they've become Christians, which when you get baptized, it means you become a Christian in their culture, they can tax you more. They can tax you more. And that's what they would do often. So it would kind of, you were already in poverty, whether you knew it or not, over there. You were in more as you became a Christian. Let's go to the next one. This is another church that I went to. I remember this church. This was just like a little lean-to. It was basically like a walkway. And you see maybe, 5 or 10 people there on the walkway. And it was just a small gathering of Christians that I shared at. More of the same. Next one. Big Jesus, yes. So there was these statues everywhere. And I called them landmarkers because I didn't know what they were. So the guys who were with me at the time, we were just driving on our car, and I seen this statue, and I'm like, I've got to stop and have a picture with Big Jesus, right? So that's what I did. We stopped, and I took a picture, and then I got to looking around. I noticed that most of their gods there were big and white. And I'm like, wow, that's why I'm such a draw. They're curious about me. He's big and white. Let's go see this thing, right? And I'm like, I have got to learn to let God use me for whatever it is that He wants me to be used for, because I'm going to point the way right back to Him. And if I'm the draw, if people are coming because I'm big and white, great, whatever. I don't care, because I'm going to point them right back to Jesus. And also, with 1 Samuel 5, I'm telling them all of your idols are trash. Every time I go into a church, I don't even know that's what I'm doing, but that's exactly what I'm doing. And the Nationals are like, this is great. How'd you get this message? I'm like, I don't know. God gave this message to me months before I even knew what I was going to do. Crazy thing is, this Jesus here didn't represent Christianity. It's just another God. Let's go to the next one. So these are the guys hanging out with a little bit. These two young guys were with me as much as they could. One of them talked to me about the caste system. There's a caste system to India, and you're kind of born into it. There's like 6 different levels, and you can't escape it. Either you're on the top and you've got money and property and all that, or you're on the bottom and you get to do whatever the people do on the bottom of the list. But they helped me to understand that. And this is me with my interpreter, Babu. And you see this body of water behind us? I believe that is the Godavari River. And it makes the Ohio River look like a stream, because I thought it was like an ocean or a lake or something going across it. You can't even see half of it. That's how big it is. It was so huge, it was almost scary to go over. So, but people would go out and bathe in them, and they would some would drink from them, and then other things get done in them, and it's like, wow, I can't quite picture that in my mind, but it's a really big river. Go ahead, next slide. This was breakfast, so we stayed in a really nice hotel, very, very top notch. And so, as you can see, I had a couple boiled eggs that I could eat. I had oatmeal, and then there was some butter, some jelly, and this big old piece of naan. It was which is just like a bread, basically, that I would have for every morning. That's really the only meal that I could eat was that. It got to where I would go out in the day. I just had to not eat anything. Let's go to the next one. So this is the start of the trip. Where I'm going to be showed what to do, basically. So this is Monday. I'm with Brian. He's showing me how to do evangelism from village to village. I'm just learning what's going on. Go ahead for the next one. So this must have been the first village that we went to. This is one church up here. This is another church down here. This church, we drove along a road which went to a dirt road and pulled up next to a cow pasture. And I'm like, what are we doing? And we walked through a cow pasture towards the blaring India music that we could hear to a church. And so I must have prayed or something to her because I didn't speak at this one, but Brian did. Brian is in the blue shirt over here. And so I'm praying probably after he spoke, and then you can see everybody else is seated and praying. What you can't see in here makes all the difference. I wish I could have showed you, but in the back of this is a gentleman, and he's older, and he has his hands raised up. And this is the man that has leprosy. And his fingers are gone down to his first knuckle here, and he's in the back, and he's just holding his hands up and praying. And after the service, he comes up to me and asks if I can pray with him. And I'm like, oh, okay, because Brian's like, he's got leprosy. Good luck. And I'm like, okay. So I pray with him. Am I going to get leprosy? Brian's like, no, you're fine. It's okay. It's contagious, but it takes a while. You have to be in a lot of contact to get leprosy. And so anyway, that gentleman was there, and I was able to pray with him. Then we moved on to the next village, and I know that I had prawn in this village. They actually had shrimp, which was really good with some white rice. And when they eat, I mean, they eat a lot of food. They only eat once or twice a day, but they have like a big plate of food and literally mounded over with rice. Like mounds. I can't even eat half that much. Like they would just, it was crazy how much they could put away. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. This is another gathering of Christians here. Some house churches. I was able to share the message there from 1 Samuel as well and have people come to Jesus. You can see the hands raised there. And then as you would speak, you would see that head nod all the time. I'm like, it drives me crazy, but that means yes. They were agreeing with me. They were agreeing with me. And that's great because I'm telling them their idols are junk. So get rid of your idols. Next one. Some drinks of India. Arctos is basically like a Coke. I think it had a little bit of grape flavor. They also had Coke there too, and Sprite, and a few other drinks that we could get. I never had the swag. I mean, obviously I've had 7-Up. Yeah, just a little bit there. Next one. Skip that one because I don't remember what it is. It's for the Southern Baptists, so it's not important. So Tuesday was the first day that I was all by myself there. This was the biggest church I was at. Once again, you'll have Christians in the middle here, and then all around the edges were Hindus. A lot of times you couldn't even tell that because they would take the dots off their foreheads and place them, and then they would join the services. So this was a pretty big gathering. The next one. And this is the pastor from the church, and I believe his children from there. One more. So this lady is very interesting because I was sitting in the pastor's study, basically, sitting on his bed by myself. She comes in, says something to me, bows down, and gets on her hands and knees and puts her hands on my feet. And I'm like, no. I said, you got to get up off the ground. We're not going to do that, right? Yeah, get off the ground. So I have her get off the ground, and I end up holding her hands with mine, or one hand with hers, or whatever, and praying with her. She just wanted prayer, but she was searching for a holy man to pray with her. And I was happy to do that, but not with her on the ground. Now, to them, that's acceptable because they're giving you reverence. They're giving you respect. Well, it made me uncomfortable, and I said no. So I had her get up and pray with me. We're both sitting at the same place. Next one. This is another house gathering. There's more than 3 people there, I assure you. It's just the picture that was taken of the people raising their hands. Next one. So this is more representative of a house gathering, usually 15 to 20 people. A lot of times there's people standing in the doorways at the back. I don't see any there. But once again, I'm giving the message, and I think this must be the pastor here, and he's doing some of the translation for the people for the service that I gave. Next slide. There we go. So this is Brian on the left over there with Babu, my interpreter, and this is the first orphanage that they went to there, and they would do like a vacation Bible school with the kids, and they would do lice treatments with them because lice was always pretty big in India. So, and I felt so bad for the girls that were coming back because they all had long hair, and they were all susceptible to getting it if they weren't like really careful. So that is the children. They were lovely, but lots and lots of children there without a place to be. So I was glad we were able to work with the orphanages. Next one. This is Ravindra. This is the head national. He made it possible for us to come over there, and he's holding something called an EvangeCube. Now, I use this device over there, and you've heard of EvangeCube before? And so basically, you would present the gospel using a cube, and it would open up in different ways and then fold back up, and you could show the resurrection through that, and Jesus being the one and only God. And that's what he's doing. He's making a demonstration with that EvangeCube. Next. The I3 Project is who I went with. We weren't allowed to advertise anything about us going besides to the churches and our friends that we were going with, because if the India government found out about them, they would shut them down. And we would get blacklisted and wouldn't be allowed to go back over there anymore. So that's the I3 Project, which is still going on. Brian's not over it anymore. Somebody else is. He's doing different kinds of mission work. Brian is doing a medical mission next month, but I forget where he said he was going. So he was always going somewhere. But go to the next one. This is a little bit of sightseeing. This is some kind of a statue for they said for coconuts. I don't know, because coconuts were really big over there. I didn't get to have any. The other tower that you see over there, that really colorful one, any village you would go into, you would see these really colorful towers like this. I just call them, I don't know what else to call them, little towers, landmarkers. But you could see all the different idols that are all over these. And you would go into these little buildings, and you would present your offering to them, whether it's food or money or whatever that you had, and you would give that to them. And I found it weird because these little shanties, you see this little house right there, this is what the Indian people would have lived in, and then you have this big ornate tower to all these false gods. So I didn't feel so bad about my message after that because they're giving their money to whoever maintains the temple can go in and get it, basically, to whatever priests that are there. Next one. All right. So this is some of the sites that I got to see. I rode in a car a lot. We went to different regions all the time. So, I put this little hay. You have too many people on a motorbike. So there's a big load of hay there that kind of spills over. And you get 3 people on a motorbike all the time. I don't know how that works. It's like a scooter. And they do it everywhere. Next one. This is inside the hotel that I stayed at. When I had arrived, the lady was building this on the floor. Building this really ornate design, and I just thought that was really skillful to be able to build something like that. So it was a really nice place over there. I think it was $40 a night. So, next one. More gatherings of Christians. This is what I was there for, is to go to Christians, present the gospel to them, and to share with them. And a lot of them would receive Jesus at this moment. You don't see too many Bibles with this group, and that was another reason why I was there, to hand out Bibles. And you're going to see that a little bit later on. Next one. This is another church I went to the same day, and you can see that guy over here is not quite as tall as me on the left. He's the pastor of this church here, and I specifically remember this church was interesting because I remember praying with the people of the church. So after the service, you'd pray with everybody. That was just how they did things over there. And as I was leaving this church, there was a path, like a main path through the village, more like a big sidewalk. And I could see up this path. It was lined with these plastic chairs that I hated, right? And so coming down this path was a group of elders from the village, probably 15 to 20 Indian guys coming at me. And I'm like, the car's on the other side of these guys. I've got to walk past these chairs and through this crowd of guys. Now, at that moment, my mind wasn't in the best place. I thought they might not like me being here, sharing the gospel in their village, because none of these guys were at church. Nobody was at church with us. So I was thinking, you know what, Lord, if this is what you have for me, if this is the end, it's okay. I'm gonna accept that. But as I got closer and closer to the guys, I just kind of went right through the crowd of guys that were there. They didn't really say much to me, nothing good, nothing bad. So I'm like, okay, I got to make it to the car, and then we left. The spiritual warfare here was really intense. Me physically, I was affected. I got to where I couldn't hardly eat any food because my stomach was so messed up. And then just weird things happened on this trip that wouldn't normally happen. Ravindra, that you've seen earlier in one of the gatherings, he was in his 30s, I believe then, and he was about close to the same age as me. And his sister died unexpectedly, and they had to have a funeral right then and there, basically, like the next day after she passed away. Our car that we had, which was a pretty good car, broke down 3 times as we were going from villages to village. And when you're out in the countryside in India going from place to place and the car breaks down, you lose something called air conditioning. And it's hot everywhere you go. And then there's the flies. The flies come for you. And you're just hoping that you can get the car started again because you're dealing with swatting flies until something else happens. And I'm like, Lord, I'm not used to this at all. And one time it was getting later in the day. We didn't leave our hotel after dark. It's another one of the things that Brian figured out was a good idea. And I seen why, because we were getting close to our hotel, car broke down. And we're in the car, and it's like all of a sudden these guys start coming towards the car. And Brian's like, don't get out. And he's like, they'll get the car fixed. It'll be fine. Just keep your windows up as far as you can and don't get out. Well, they were curious about us. And I said, why can't we get out? He said, well, they're going to start asking you for money. He said, most of the people in India are great, but you get a few that kind of make it look bad for everybody else. So we didn't get out. Thankfully, the car was able to get running again, and we were able to go back to the hotel for that evening. So that's that one. Go ahead. This is another young gentleman, probably a young pastor from a village. I don't remember his name either. Next. Timothy Initiative. So what they would do, they're very different. They go into places like India or Africa or wherever, and they have people that they stay in contact with there. And what they do is they build churches there. They don't send missionaries there. They build churches. They plant churches. So let's say that Jesse feels called to start a church wherever. Maybe he does, I don't know. They would support him in doing that. They would give him materials so that he could read about it and be able to start his own church. So instead of sending missionaries, we're sending supplies. That's what Timothy Initiative does, to have people plant churches wherever they're at. That was a big need for the people in the area, just like India. They didn't have the literature they needed to be able to read or to study Christianity to be able to have their own church. So the Timothy Initiative made that possible. They would provide classes you go through, and you could learn how to plant a church, and they would ask that you did that church where you are. Not that you're going to uproot and move somewhere, but plant a church where you know the people. So that's TTI. Next one. So Thursday we got Bibles. This was a miracle on its own, because a couple days before I was in contact with the India Bible League. And they called me on the phone. They said, hey, we heard that you wanted some Bibles. I said, yeah, I'd love to get some Bibles. The church that I was with had raised $500 to bring Bibles to India. And I was on the phone with this guy, and he said, you know what, you're really fortunate to be able to get these Bibles because the India government wants to shut us down. They don't want Bibles around. They don't want people to read them, so we have to change the title of them to the Book of Love or something else so that people can get the Bibles. So these are Gideon Bibles. We were able to get them in the Telugu language for 40 cents a Bible, which is great. And so this is Ravindra, and he's handing them out as we get them. Go to the next one. So this is one of the first churches I was able to give out some Bibles in, either after the service, I don't remember, or not. But this is just me sharing the message. By Thursday, my stomach is absolutely terrible. And I said, can you guys please find me some bread? Just regular, I want a loaf of bread. That's all I need. And I said, if it's not too much to ask, I would love to have some peanut butter, because me and peanut butter are near and dear to each other, right? Every day I eat peanut butter, but that's the only thing, that's my comfort food over there. So we had to go to one supermarket to find the bread, and then we had to go to a big city to find the peanut butter, and then I could finally have something to eat that wouldn't upset my stomach. Because the last thing you wanted to do in India was have to use the bathroom out in the field. Because they call them squatty potties, but it's basically a hole in the ground with a garden hose. I'll let you figure out the rest of that. And I didn't want to use that. So anyway, I took medicine to make sure I didn't have to do that. But I lost 7 pounds over there. You can't tell it, but I lost some weight. Anyway, so it's hot. This is Thursday. I've been doing 2 to 3 messages a day, every day, sharing with people, doing the best that I can, just trying to make it through. They've been taking great care of me, by the way. It's just internal things and spiritual warfare that just happens when you're there. Next slide. This is another shot of the temples, the gods that they worship, and they would have whatever kind of music blaring out of those. Not worship music, for Jesus anyway, for somebody else. But I like the different colors. Notice he's holding the swords and stuff, victory and all that mess. Next slide. So this was another Bible giveaway, and I know this looks like I'm hitting my head on the ceiling. I'm not. So I'm just giving away some Bibles to people. And this was probably my favorite little child in India. She was just sweet and wonderful, that little red dress, and she had her Bible she was so proud of that she could read. It was in her own language, and she just had the biggest smile. Next. So this was a pastor's conference I went to on Friday. So basically, Sunday was church, going to different churches. Monday through Thursday was evangelism, going to different churches and sharing the gospel. And then Friday was a pastor's conference, and it was sightseeing. That's pretty much all that we did. This will give you some more of the sights of India. Go ahead. So this is very interesting. This is a leprosy colony church, and it's in India. So it's for those that have leprosy to be able to go to. And the pastor's name is Tim. There's supposed to be a space there. The sponsor got spelled wrong. But anyway, Tim, and his last name is Ikno. It's better down there where you can read it at the bottom. But it looks like they dedicated it in August of 2007, which is 10 years before I got there. I never got to meet anybody, but I've never seen a church dedicated to a leprosy colony. I thought that's really interesting. So you can go over there. And this is the area that it's in, that Kovar, and this stands for Andhra Pradesh, that AP, India. So that's how you know where that's at. Next one. This is the gathering of pastors that I've seen. So some of these were pastors over the churches that I've been to, but it was like pastors from the area. They don't typically have gatherings like that. But you can see how many are there, 20 to 30 different pastors. And one thing you're going to notice is nobody's wearing shoes, and that was typical of India, is whenever you went into a church, you put your shoes on the outside. Next. There you go. How many people were in church today? Can you find my shoes? I bet you can. But that's how you can tell who was in church. Did you leave your shoes at the door? And I'm pretty sure that goes back to the Old Testament where you're standing on holy ground, remove your sandals. Next one. So this is us getting celebrated. And there's a few things to learn from this slide. They like flowers. They like shawls. They like recognizing us, and they put the leis on us. But do you notice I'm sitting on 2 chairs here? because I was scared to death they were going to break on me because I was a pretty good chair breaker. This is Ravinder beside me and his brother, and then this is Brian, and then Babu on the other side there. This is them celebrating us at the pasture. And by this time, I've been celebrated like 10 or 15 times. I'm over it. Like, I don't want to be celebrated. I just want to come in and share, you know? But I got to give my message again there, and that was really good to be able to go to that. Next one. This is just me with a couple of guys. That's Ravindra and Prasanth out there, just to give you some perspective of the big white guy. Next one. The flowers and stuff. This is a dam that was over there. This was not on the Godavari River. This was a different place. Go to the next one. Just to give you an idea, just the area. It's really pretty, I thought a lot of it was. One more. This was part of the sightseeing, and you can see a little guy up there. It's called prawn. It's just a kind of a shrimp that looks like it's clear. And there was fishermen. They were casting their nets into where this dam area was, and they were dragging in these little prawn. They weren't doing very well, but they let me see one and take a picture of it. So it's me and my spiffy hat. Let's go to the next one. We got to do a boat ride in India, and I went back and looked at this picture. I'm like, okay, so he's got his bike on this boat, and, you know, that looks just a little different to me. I'm glad he's holding it so it doesn't go in the water. But we weren't on that boat. We got to be on a different boat. Next one. So this is a close-up shot of Brian, and I didn't know this at the time, but in his probably dozen mission trips to India, he had never ridden on a boat. Never ridden on a boat in India before in his life. And he's like, I was terrified because I didn't know what was going to happen. Our boat had a canopy. You can't see it, but you can see the pole that goes up to it. Next slide. This is a shot of more of the big idols that they have. This is what I remember most about seeing these kind of idols there. That just really big and weird-looking landmarker to me. But people worship these things. And I'm like, I'm basically telling them that, you know, this little box, a little Ark of the Covenant, has got more power than that. Can you see this God like tipped over inside of the temple and he's all laid there and what the people would have thought? And then setting him back up the next day, and then they come in and he's fallen over again? That's basically Dagon. He just doesn't look the same. They all look weird. Next one. Okay, this is the sheep and stuff that they always had. You see cows everywhere, and this is Banana Man over here is what I called him. They have bananas everywhere. And nobody wanted to ride in the front seat of the car but me because it was like riding an ambulance through a safari. So that's the best way I could explain it. The next one. This is just some more sights of it, carrying his idol on top of stuff. And this is transplanting banana trees, I believe. Next one. Cardboard. Yeah, how would you like to haul that in the back of your truck? Pretty crazy. You've seen it all the time. Next one. Three's Company. More folks on scooters. I just couldn't believe 3 people could ride these little motorbikes and scooters that they had. Next one. How much stuff can you carry? How much can you fit on your bike? That's quite a bit. And I'm taking these pictures as I'm in the passenger seat and somebody else is driving. So I'm just kind of getting these shots. Next one. So how would you like to drive here? Tell me which side of the road you're supposed to be on, who's on what side, and how you're... I never seen a cop pull anybody over for any kind of driving anything. And I can tell why, because you don't know what's going on. I'm just hoping we don't crash. So anyway, that's what it was like to drive there. Next one. Propane delivery service, one of my favorite ones. I hope these canisters were empty. That's all I can say, because there's a muffler in there somewhere. But you've seen this all the time. There's 5 cans of propane on one bike or scooter. I'm like, that's crazy. Next one. So we got more Bibles. This is them sending me pictures of Bibles that we gave money for it, and they're getting them in, and Ravindra is just showing me these Bibles, and our church had raised money for them, so they were really excited about them because I actually had one of these with me when I was in Richmond to show the people. So they look just like that. Next one. Monkeys at the airport. Yeah, I get to see little critters everywhere. It's kind of cool. Next one. This was our flight going back home. You can see the direction that it takes. Next one. This is the team back at the airport as we're coming back. Another 2 days of flying. Next one. And this is afterwards. So after we left, they started baptizing people. taking them to whichever river that they had, and they were baptizing them because that's all part of it, becoming a Christian. Next one. So this is more baptisms going on. Next one, I'm almost done here. We're getting to the end. This is somebody receiving a Bible, and the eyes are closed, and I don't know why. One more slide after this, I think. Yeah, so this is what I call the India happy face. People are genuinely really excited to receive Bibles, but you have to tell them to smile. They just don't do it. But this is Ravindra handing out the Bibles that we have here. So some takeaways I have for this, I'm going to wrap things up here, is the people over there, they were extremely generous to me. They gave me whatever that they would have, and I could have said, but you didn't say that, oh, I like that hanging on your wall, because they would give it to you. It was that kind of culture. So you had to be careful of that. But when I was over there, the whole time, I was kind of in misery. Not spiritually at all, but physically, I was not feeling well at all. And when I got back home and Kim picked me up at the airport, she said, well, how are you doing? I said, well, not well. I said, my stomach is still turning and it's still in knots. And she's like, should we just go home? I said, no, I need something. And she said, what do you need? I said, I need a bacon cheeseburger because I haven't got to have any the whole time. And I'm watching these cows everywhere, all over the place. And one of the other nationals told me, he's like, I just see steak everywhere now that I look. So, but like I said, the people were generous. They received the message that I had to share, what I brought over there. And there was 700 people between me and Brian going to different churches, different villages, sharing with different people that had come to Jesus. Now, we did our best to give out a few hundred Bibles, is what we were able to purchase ultimately, like 250, something like that, Bibles to hand out. But people were receiving Jesus. They were receiving Bibles. They were being baptized. They're joining the churches that they were at over there, and they're getting rid of their idols. The pastors are overseeing them, and this is all happening over there. And we're in and out in a week. Me and Brian are the draw. We're bringing people in, letting them experience Jesus, and leaving. And I say, yeah. That to me is the way it should go. That's a mission trip, guys. And I hope that if God calls you to do something like that you can give it the old India head nod. Yeah, I think I can do that. How did I get the money? I don't even know. How did I do 2 mission trips in 1 year? I don't even know. I know that God supplied, and He sent me over there to share the gospel and to tell them that all their gods were junk. Have no other gods before me. That's what my message was. And I was there to love on the people the best that I could. And I feel like that's what happened. Any questions you guys have? Did I answer everything? I forgot to ask about questions. Would I go there again? Probably not, because it was rough. But if God called me to, I think I would.